Kings and queens, how are you all doing? Today is Food Last Scott. Today we have Instagram influencer Dior, also known as Jada Waiter's best friend, and her incarcerated father in the office. So let's just get straight to it. Dad's father, his name is Daryl. He is in jail for doing inappropriate things to his girlfriend, 14-year-old daughter. Now, while I do agree that Dad should not be penalized for her father's actions, supporters are enraged with her because it's being alleged that she still supports her father and that she is currently upset with the victim. Here it reads, and Dad went to apologize for her daddy actions, but once she realized they were still pressing charges, she tried to have them put out the house. Before we get into details, here's audio of him admitting to being guilty.
This is an NCB exclusive. Sir, will you take your mask off for me? And then raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. You can put your hands down. Tell us your full name for the record. This is an NCB exclusive. And Mr. Bailey, how old are you? 51. How far did you go in school? Some college. Are you a citizen of the United States, sir? Yes. Are you presently suffering from any mental or physical disability that would prevent you from entering this plea? No. Are you now under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, narcotics, or prescription medications that would affect your ability to understand these proceedings or enter this plea, sir? No. Mr. Lewis, you're satisfied that Mr. Bailey understands the proceedings and is of sound mind? Mr. Bailey, you're here this afternoon represented by Attorney Lewis. Are you satisfied with the work that he's done for you? Yes. Do you need any additional time to speak with him? No. You're here charged in this indictment, sir, in count 1 with in count 2 with aggravated sodomy, in count 3 with aggravated sodomy, in count 4 with aggravated sodomy, in count 5 with aggravated child molestation, in count 6, 7, and 8, and 9 with aggravated child molestation, in count 10 with aggravated sexual battery, in count 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 with child molestation, all stemming from a date looks like February 25th of 2023. Do you understand what you're charged with, sir? Yes. Can I get a factual basis?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is she was 14 years old at the time of the incident. Her mother is Alexis Ellis.
Is an NCB
Alexis Ellis essentially knew the defendant from several years ago. They had essentially worked together. Alexis has 3 children, 2 boys who are younger than the defendant had allowed Alexis and her children to stay with him for a couple months as she got back on her feet. While Alexis, back on February 23rd of 2023, Alexis had a funeral to attend, and so she had essentially gone out of town, asked the defendant to just look after the kids while she was there. The expectation was that he'd still go to work throughout the night, and the kids would be home by themselves. Well, the 2 nights between the 23rd and overnight of the 24th of February 2023, this defendant, for whatever reason, had decided to take off work those nights. While the night of the 24th going into the 25th, the way their home was set up is that her mother, Alexis, and their 2 younger brothers all slept in one bedroom. The 2 younger boys slept on a mattress. This defendant, intentionally that night of going from the 24th to the 25th, moved that mattress into the living room so that the boys would specifically be sleeping in their living room overnight. Was left in that room alone. The defendant then entered her room that night.
Is an NCB.
These incidents to the forensic interviewer. Had we gone to trial, we would have been able to see that video where essentially she says he entered her room and began to rub her entire body. He then forcefully removed her pants and underwear. He aggressively put his face and started licking this 14-year-old's vagina, and she kept telling him to stop. That hurts. That hurts. He continued anyway. He then proceeded to take off the rest of the clothing and went back to kissing and putting his fingers in her vagina. She would later disclose to both the forensic interviewer as well as the forensic medical examiner, and that it felt like he was scratching her in her vagina area, and that I would get to their results later to indicate that it in fact did happen. The defendant also started licking and essentially sucking this child's breast, and he kept kissing her in the mouth, and at this time crying and just begging for him to stop, but he did not stop. He then inserted his penis in his vagina, and she told him to stop again because that hurt.
This
he then whispered
is an
to her specifically,
NCB exclusive.
"It's okay. I know. I'm sorry.
This audio was screen recorded and sent to me, so I'll make sure to add the page it came from. Understand that the audio is muffled, so allow me to break it down for you. He preyed on a single mother who had a daughter and 2 sons. He's known this mother since 2020 because they worked at the same job, Home Depot in Savannah, Georgia. In 2023, the mother, Alexis, confided in Daryl about wanting to distance herself from a man she was involved with. Daryl kindly offered to provide shelter for her and her children. Soon after, February 2023, Daryl allegedly assaulted Alexis' daughter in her own room. Now, for those of you wondering, how did he get to her daughter? Because she left and went to a funeral. I believe that was out of town. In the very moment that little girl was alone, he took advantage. In the process of raping this little girl, he told her that it wasn't great, that he knew it hurt, but she should just take it. This baby told detectives that it felt as though he was scratching her inside. And I know this may be a very uncomfortable and triggering conversation, but we must have these conversations to protect our children.
Putting his tongue or his penis in her vagina, she would try to push him off, but he would use his body weight to essentially hold her down, so she was restricted from going anywhere. At other times, he would try to grab her arm as she pushed him away, and he pinned her to the bed. He rolled.
This is an NCB exclusive.
For this child to play with his penis. She disclosed that he kept rubbing his penis on her vagina and kept trying to put it in her anus. Every time she moved it away, he put it right back over and over again. He then rolled her on his back, putting his tongue in her vagina. Again, the child would disclose this whole ordeal. It was very painful and it hurt. He then put his penis in her mouth, essentially grabbing the back of her head, forcing the child to perform oral sex on him. He continued to tell her, suck on it, suck on it. After a few minutes, he then went back to sodomizing the child by licking her vagina.
This is an NCB
Can I
exclusive.
please go to sleep now? Can I please go to sleep? Well, when this defendant decided to allow her to go to sleep, he slept naked with this naked child with his arm essentially over her so that she could not bleed. So it wasn't until the next morning, essentially, when she kind of woke up and saw that he was out of the room, she texted her best friend, I was just raped, and she immediately calls her mom, who was out of town and essentially was already on the way, coming back from North Carolina, I believe, to the house. Her mom, Alexis, was able to get back to the house with the kids, and then she brought them all in the room that they shared. They called the police.
This is an NCB exclusive.
Because he had stepped away for a moment, and he's banging on the door. They essentially exited that day through the window when police arrived.
This is how the mind of a predator works. No one can convince me that from the very first day he met this mom, that he was not preying on her and her daughter. That's what predators do. They overextend themselves to single mothers. Fathers, you all have to be careful as well. There was just a case where a man went through his girlfriend's phone and caught her taking inappropriate videos of his daughter. And another thing I want to say before I continue this video, moms and dads, you are your kids' first eyes, first ears, and their first protector. And I am in no way blaming this mother, but it was never a great idea to leave your child alone in a home with a man she doesn't know. Fortunately, a lot of times kids end up paying for their parents' negligence.
There was a search warrant that was executed at the home. The crime scene investigations unit, they processed the scene. There was on the bedding, it revealed that there was a presence of blood and what was suspected to be semen. There was a forensic sample examination
exclusive.
where the sexual assault exam was performed, and this victim had several injuries to her vagina and her anus. And so the sexual assault nurse examiner, her findings showed that there was vaginal redness irritation. The child also had pain urinating. There were also there's a 45 millimeter laceration to the posterior fourchette. There was also a 45 millimeter laceration to the
NCB
perineum.
exclusive.
The defendant was asked to consent, of course, for his swab. He didn't consent, so we essentially were able to obtain a search warrant. At that time, the results were sent off to the GBI, and the rectum swabs showed the presence of this defendant's DNA inside of this 14-year-old victim. The anus and perineum.
This is an NCB exclusive.